All right. Okay, we're live now, right? Excellent. Um, it took a while to get ourselves together, but obviously that's just because, I mean, this is the first time anyway. I've got three guests here. Before I introduce my guests, quickly let me read out the introduction, obviously, and the mission statement and the vision statement for this program. Now, this program is a talk show. It's going to be taking place once every month. Okay, it's something which I strongly believe that the time and the age we are in now, this is really obviously very needed, and I believe God is getting my mind in this direction. Quickly, this is the listening space, and we call it TLS. Now, TLS is a new online talk show for young voices. We are expected to launch TLS, in a safe and judgmental-free space where young people can share their thoughts, their doubts, fears, and experiences about their faith, life, community, and all of that. This is a place where questions are welcomed, challenges are acknowledged, and support is offered, where every voice is genuinely heard, understood, and respected. Now, our mission statement is to create a safe, open, and judgment free space where young people can express their thoughts, doubts, fears, experiences, challenges, seek support if needed, and questions about faith, life, and community, while being genuinely heard and understood, of course, and respected. And our mission is very simple, to build a generation that feels seen and valued, where honest conversation bridge the gap between young people and older generation, foster mutual understanding, and inspire healthier relationship with faith, purpose, and community. Now, this is exactly why we are here. And this is going to be taking place once every month, and I believe that our young adults really need to be heard. We need to understand them, and of course, to be able to bridge that gap and bring unity to our homes, our community, and all of that. Now, I've got wonderful guests tonight, and I'm very sure you wouldn't, you'll be glad to hear them speak. Okay. Uh, Here I've got Kamal. Kamal, it's nice to have you on this show. Thank you for making our time to be here.
Thanks for having me, sir.
Thank you. And I've got Peter here as well. He's my boy, but of course, nice to have you here, Peter.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Now I've got Lenora. Lenora, of course, nice to have you here in the TLS, Lenora.
It's amazing to be here. Thanks.
Excellent. Brilliant. All right. Now, we the this program, obviously, I know we talked briefly, obviously, before the commencement of the show, is a talk show, and we know that. I mean, I'm from the older generation, obviously, and of course there are a lot of gray areas, and so I believe that there are quite a number of youth out there who, of course, would like to hear from you, understand you, and of course, so we can also understand how to really be able to relate with them. And the thing is that you guys are speaking, but it's as if we don't understand. So our generation say, well, but I spoke to you yesterday. I said, well, but you didn't understand what I'm saying. And someone say, well, you're not listening to me. Yes, I'm saying. So, but all of this obviously is got to do with communication, right? So, this program is your program, more or less. I'm going to just talk less, but obviously we'd like to hear you guys. Now, I've got some few questions here to get us to start us off. But more importantly, I don't want it structured. I just want us to have fun, so we're able to reach out to most of our, our viewers out there. Now, first of all, talk to us, Lenora, about yourself, just briefly.
My name is Lenora, as you've heard. I'm almost 18, so I do consider myself a youth. I'm in my last year of A-levels. I am working on my personal businesses. Personally, I do love church. I do love God. Yeah, I feel like growing up in the church has given me a lot of opinions, but I feel like I have my own opinions rather than my parents' opinions, and I feel like I'm more grounded with my thoughts to be able to speak on why youths don't, usually enjoy church. But yeah, that's a bit about me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. There are a few things I'm going to come back to you on what you just said. I think just to able to share a bit of light into that so we can understand that. Peter, please, just a little bit about yourself. Thank you.
My name is Peter. I have been born and raised in the church successfully for the past 17 years of my life. I think the church is wonderful. I think the church does go out of its way to help people. I think the church is good for many people. I do think there's some areas that it can improve in, but I just think that a conversation is what's needed to solve those problems.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. All right. Kamal, please, a little bit about yourself and, so let the viewer get to know you.
Well, good evening. My name's Kamal. I'm 18. I turned 18 around 4 months ago. And I like church, and this is the first church that I've properly attended and come to. But I haven't really grown up in church like my peers over here. So I'd say, while I do like church, I'm less motivated for church compared to them. And I think church, while it has positives and benefits, and it does help people in society, there's some negatives that probably deter a lot of people, especially young people, from going.
Excellent. All right. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Now, Lenora, you said that obviously there are some things about church that can be improved upon. And Kamal is sharing that view, didn't they? Okay. Do you mind throw a bit of light to that for us, Lenora? I mean, what can be improved, in church, which can actually make yourself, and of course, most people within your group or your age, find interesting to be able to come to church?
I think with the younger generation, we love authenticity more than performative behaviors. Sometimes I feel like coming to church is just praise and worship, sermon, the pastor preaches, and nobody really connects with the individual that is there. It's kind of like it's preached this religion, follow God, and everybody's perfect, everybody's this type of person, and if you're not this, you're going to hell. If you're not this, you're not accepted here. So I feel like with the young people, what could be improved is a real connection with what we go through, being really real with ourselves. Life is not a linear path. A lot of us are going through a lot of mental health issues. There's depression, there's parental conflicts. So I feel like if we really saw what people were going through, really connected and really understood that, it would make them feel at home, because then the reason why youths don't really come to church as much is because they're seeking to be loved, they're seeking to feel safe, they're seeking for community in other places.
Excellent. How can we? That's a brilliant response. Now, how can we, correct that? I mean, being able to help you to help that connection. How can we do that?
I feel like youth groups would be amazing, but also more bringing community back to church. Yes, church is a place where there's a bunch of people, but is it really a community if you're not listening to one another, praying for one another, if you're not really understanding one another? There's people that, they'll hear that somebody's going through this, or they just did this last week, and they're looking at them sideways, they're judging them already. If we go back to scriptures and the fact that we're supposed to actually give each other grace, but we're supposed to forgive one another if God forgave us first. For us to really open our arms and really accept people is where we can actually start, because it's people not feeling accepted in the church. That's where they kind of
Thank you very much. Not feeling accepted. Thank you. Do any of you agree with that?
No, I kind of agree.
Can you relate with that, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Throw a bit of light to that if you don't mind, please. Or just expatiate that for us a bit.
Well,
from your own, viewpoint.
Well, from my viewpoint, it's not that I don't feel accepted, but I feel like church, what it could use is stimulation. And I feel like that's why me and a lot of other young people don't really go to church as much. Because a lot of young people, even myself, I can admit, my attention span isn't the greatest. So when you're in church and you're kind of just sitting down, you're listening to the lessons that's, the pastor's talking about, but you're not really retaining them, because I feel like you're just sitting down and you're listening where it feels more like school on a Sunday. I feel like if young people had more like activity to do in church, where they're getting up, doing things, talking to people, especially people their own age, that will make lessons stick more, and that will make them more, pumped and, invigorated to come to church and actually be a part of it and be active.
Any contribution to that, Peter?
Yeah, but you know what is, Kamal? Let's not move like youths haven't been given the opportunity before. I mean, you won't really find a church around here that when you attend that church, there isn't a youth section for the church. There's always a youth section for a church, because every pastor knows that inside their churches, there's different denominations of people, obviously, and youths are a denomination. So you're going to have to take care of those people. And even with those things available for those youths, they still decide not to do that. And the question would be why?
You want to respond to that, Kamal?
Well, first, I'd like to ask you for like an example.
It's like you can have a church that has a youth program. You can have a church that has a youth pastor. You can have a church that maybe the youth program every Saturday they go to Woolwich and evangelize. But you'll still see their youth at that church. You won't want to participate in that. That's the church trying to get them directly involved in the Word of God. But they still themselves decide not to do that.
That's a good point. Me, I don't really relate to that. I feel like if I was involved in that, I would go and I'd have fun. But other people, again, I feel like it's still an attention span thing. Because just because you're putting something in front of someone's face doesn't mean they're gonna pay attention to it. They have to be given a reason to find it interesting. So if you give like a common guy like 15 to maybe 18 a pamphlet and tell him go into Woolwich and go evangelize and tell people about God, he's gonna be like, oh, that's long.
But like you said, that one has to be stimulated. Like one way the church would solve capturing the youth is for the youth to be stimulated at the church, right? But you can only be stimulated in something that you're interested in. You can only be stimulated in something that you enjoy, that you want to listen to. So at the end of the day, like even if you come here and the opportunities are open for you now here for you to get involved in the church, if you decide as a person yourself that this information isn't interesting to me, then who can force you to be stimulated? Who can force you to engage?
No, it's true. But sometimes it's not really about forcing you. It's about finding another path to actually stimulate you. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like you want to be given a reason to care, but you haven't really found something that's going to make you.
Yeah.
That's how some people probably think.
Would you have any, like an example, to that? That's a very valid point. But can you give an example to that, to your last statement?
What, about being given a reason to care?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It's not a good example, but it's like how everyone wants to be on their phones nowadays. I feel like if something like an activity could capture a youth person, a young person,
Yeah.
if someone could capture their attention as much as their phone does, then they'd definitely be given a lot of motivation to
That's
pay
right.
attention in church.
What do you think the church could actually put in place now that will attract more youth?
To be fair, I think, and a lot of churches I think do this, but I think what they need to be doing more and more consistently is adding more young people.
To add more young people?
Yeah. I feel like having people your age to talk to about the church and be like, oh, what do you think of this service?
Yeah.
And have them talk to each other just during or after. It's
right.
going to make them be like, oh, I have a friend in church, let me go to church.
Yeah.
And then they're not just going to start going to
Yeah,
church for the friend.
yeah.
They're going to go to church with their friend,
Yeah.
but actually taking and
something's
retaining
gonna
lessons.
lead them there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Beautiful. All right. Now, now this what's it called? This is a general question. When did you first start feeling disconnected from church or faith space, if you ever did? Lenora, could you help us throw light into that?
I mean, growing up, I would say early teen. I'd say definitely early teenage years. I was forced into choir.
Forced into it.
Not in terms of force, but like it was more of, oh yeah, you need to be in choir, you need to be in choir, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. And I didn't find a reason that I really wanted to.
That comes back to what Kamal said earlier on.
Yeah.
There has to be a reason, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not even only about a reason. I feel like it was more so routine. Church wasn't personal to it wasn't personal to me. I saw people worshiping, saw people crying, saw people, genuinely feeling on the spirit, and I'm just like, I don't feel that. So, what are we doing here? And when I had the opportunity to lazy about and not go to church, I would take that opportunity.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah.
All right. Now, what can be done now to get you interested to want to come back to church, as in fully and fully committed?
I believe I'm fully committed right
Okay,
now to
all right.
church.
Okay.
Um,
Now, mind you, we understand that obviously church is not the building. We are the church,
We
you know,
are
in
the
that
church,
regard.
yeah.
But I think in the retrospect, having been, I mean, what was that thing that we're interested to come to the sanctuary, you know, to the building, to join other people to worship?
I mean, I'm going to speak from experience.
Yeah.
First of all, it started with curiosity. I was actually interested to know God for myself.
Okay,
I
that's
was
good.
so annoyed, not even annoyed, but I was tired of, oh, who's God to my mum, who's God to my dad. I wanted to know who God is for me. Like, what does He have in store for me? Why is it that He says He loves me? What is it about? Do you get what I mean? And also, apart from curiosity, another thing was when I went to certain events, Christian events, and I saw so many young people. I saw influencers, I saw TikTokers, I saw people my age that were burning for Christ. I was like, rah, so they're feeling something I'm not. I was like, okay, I want to do this as well. Like I saw the fun, I saw the enjoyment, I saw the love that other youths had when I went to those spaces, and that kind of made me more interested to know who Christ was
Okay.
for myself.
Now, that curiosity, has it been fed in a way? Has it been, you know, has it been fulfilled? I mean, did that actually get you to where you want to be?
I'd say it did, but it wouldn't have gotten me to where I wanted to be without the community,
Okay.
without people I could lean on, without people I could really speak to.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I could have fun, I could actually pour my heart out, I could actually worship God. But then at the end of the day, sometimes I feel like, okay, but now what do I do? What are the next steps?
Yeah.
There's still stuff that I'm going through. There's still my life that even when I step out this church, that I feel like everything is like a tornado. So
Yeah.
what then happens? Because then I'm just coming to church to worship. Do you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It's about really knowing who God is.
That's right. Personally.
Yeah, because I feel like people try to be like, yeah, come to church because I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
You know, it's because it's not even about us. Like, it's not about you at the end of the day. It's about God.
Excellent. Anyone sharing that view?
I think Laura used a good word when she said church feels more like a routine
Okay.
than someone willing to actually come and attend church. Because the entire point of church is for one to have a connection with God and one to have an understanding and relationship with God.
That's right.
But the moment you start to remove that factor and church seems more like a chore, and it seems like obviously we know there are many kids out there who maybe their mother wakes them up on a Sunday morning, 6 a.m., yeah, let's go to church, and they keep on doing it every Sunday. You can't even begin to start blaming the kid when the kid starts seeing church as less as a relationship with God, but more as a routine they need to fulfill for the sake of their parents.
So would you say that most young adults are rather forced to church, you know, by their parents? I mean, if they have their, I mean, going by what Kamal said earlier on, and of course Lenora also sharing that there has to be something that actually interests you to want to keep coming, right?
The Bible says that you teach your kids in the way of the Lord, and when they grow, they do not depart from it. So I can't ever say that the parents are in the wrong for, you know, forcing their kids to continue going to church, because they believe in that belief, they have that religion, so it's expected for them to uphold that. But at the same time, if you continue to force your child to do something like that, and then when they eventually rebel or eventually disagree with you, you can't like not understand where they're coming from in a way, if that makes sense.
Kamal seems to have.
Yeah. I also kind of feel like it's because a lot of kids or young people, they just don't like being told what to do. Like,
Okay, yeah.
when a kid is like around the ages of 4 to 5, they're going to be very obedient. They're going to listen to their parent because they
Yeah.
don't have much life experience. They look to their parent for everything. Their parent does everything for them.
That's right.
But as you mature and you've gone through puberty, you start to seek more independence. So in family activities like church, which is a lot about family as well, if your mom and your dad and your siblings are getting ready for church,
Yeah.
if you're a teenager, then you're kind of going to be like, oh, I don't really want to go with them, or I don't want to do this. I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
It's just it's a control thing. A lot of people want to have control over their own autonomy. So when they feel like they're told, go to church and go listen to about God, they're just like, well, I didn't really care about God. Why do I want to go to church? That's
Yeah.
how some people feel.
How do you think? How do you think we could fix that? Does anybody want to,
I don't think that's a problem that the church itself has to fix. I think the individual youth has to find their own way with God, and in the name of the Lord, that the way with God points them towards the church.
Would you say that those who just have to wake up to follow their parents to church as members is different, approach to those who, of course, are more or less like pastors? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm going to what Peter said earlier on. Like if you're a pastor, I'm a pastor, for instance, and that's all. Come, we gotta go. So it's like, hey, we gotta, because every pastor seems to involve their kids in the church routine, like you earlier said. So would he suppose that would that be a different approach to someone who's just like a church member who doesn't really is not committed, in anything? Would it be a different approach? I mean, Kamal obviously was saying that. And you sharing that view as well, Peter, that the routine sometimes becomes bothersome, becomes like tiring. And it's just like, there's nothing stimulating, like you said earlier on, there's nothing engaging. So would it be that the parents who are more involved in the church activities, does that filter down to the children, in terms of them trying to rebel? I mean,
Yeah, my personal opinion, just from a couple of people I've seen and things I've heard on social media, I feel like the more connected you are as a parent to church, the more disobedient your child is likely to be.
okay, all right. Now that is a very vital point that note you just hit there. Okay, go on. I think you said
And
this.
I think this because there's this stereotype on social media, or this narrative that if you're a pastor's child, you're the complete opposite of what a pastor's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Which is like, when a pastor is supposed to be calm, he's supposed to be steadfast, he's supposed to be very faithful to God. There's this narrative on social media that, pastors' children are everything but that, because of the way they've been raised, and they're just tired of it.
Yeah. Leonora wants to say something, right?
I think it goes down to my first point of being performative.
Okay.
Kids, we like things being real. We like to know that, okay, you're coming on stage, you're coming to preach, you're coming to worship, you're teaching this whole congregation about who God is, what God does for you, and you go home and you act a complete different way.
Okay.
It's not correlating. It's like you're contradicting yourself, and then we're like, okay, what's the point? Because you're not even doing what you're preaching.
Yeah.
So what's the point of following? It's like they're not seeing actively God moving in your life, because if they did, they wouldn't
Rebel.
they would admire that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They would admire the good things.
So would you say that from the adult point of view, they've not really there's nothing significant actually that will now create the hunger in the hearts of the young adults to really want to come into church? Is that your point?
Honestly, there's nothing significant. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. But I'm just saying there are a lot of hypocrites.
Yeah.
And this is a very wide conversation
That's right.
that even on TikTok, on people are having a conversation on, and that because they're not seeing people practice what they're preached, they're
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe what you're saying isn't
All right.
isn't true.
Okay, they're not living by their.
You're not living by
their preaching. All right, excellent. That's all right. Now, I've got one more question here, guys. Thank you very much for that. That's wonderful. Now, what's one thing you wish adults understood about young people, today? What is one thing you wish adults understood about young people today? Because I think there's a complete breach of. Peter is warming up on that one. All right.
I think the main thing is, just because a child isn't listening to what you are saying does not mean they're trying to disobey you.
All right.
It literally just means that they honestly believe that in their minds, because I think there's a gap between the older generation and the younger generation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To the point where no matter how many conversations I had, they will never see themselves eye to eye.
Yes.
And because of that, I don't think that a young person should be judged or a young person should be attacked because they don't agree
Okay.
with the advice from the elders.
All right. So does that line up with what Kamal said earlier on about that when they're like 5, 6, they listen. When they get to puberty age, they tend to want to not be told what to do. Is that
Yeah.
Oh, okay then. So you put in a balance on that now, that the fact that they are being told what to do and they don't respond doesn't mean they're not listening.
No, it doesn't mean they're not listening.
Okay then, all right, that's good. That's a good point.
I feel like it's not only the fact that okay they don't like not being told what to do.
Yeah.
Parents or the older generation don't allow us to live. Like, let us live,
Sad,
man. Like you were kids
I
when
have, to agree, I
like
have to agree with her. I have to agree with
Oh
her.
my goodness.
you guys were once young. You guys once did all the things that we're trying to dream to do, and you're like, no, don't do this, no, don't do that for your protection. Don't go there, don't do this. And we're just like, it feels so suffocating to the point where then we see like this whole trajectory of people when they go to university, they become the most opposite person that their parents even. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
Most people that go off to uni do the most randomest
Opposite.
thing. They
Alright.
do the most wildest stuff, and you actually realize that people who were given the chance to actually live a little life, experience a little things, but obviously there's a covering from their parents. They actually understand, okay, this is wrong, or I've experienced it for myself. I like to experience things for myself. Obviously, it's not great all the time, but
Yeah.
I feel like it teaches me early that, eventually things are not always worth it.
Would you that's a valid response there, but would you not think that the parents do what they're doing because they're trying to protect you? Because now you see uni as a freedom, doesn't it? Does that relate to you guys? Does uni comes to mind as a freedom?
Not for me really.
Okay then, does that come to you as a freedom? I mean, like, yeah. Does that come to you as a freedom? Yeah. All right. Does that come to you as a freedom? It seems
Yes,
like
yes,
we
it
are,
does.
Peter. Does that come to you as a freedom?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. Fine. Now, I'm trying to relate that. So does that mean is that where the opposite thing comes from? Like Lenora said.
It's freedom.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a
But,
little bit of freedom.
Freedom is good, but or freedom without safety? How would you respond to that?
I would say even God knows the end from the beginning.
Goodness.
He
all right.
knows he's literally the author and the finisher of our faith.
Yeah.
And still yet he put the decision in our hands
That's right.
whether we want to follow him or not.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's the father of all fathers, the
That's correct.
fathers of all nations. So if we're going to look at God and look at Jesus from the perspective in which they try to disciple people and bring people to them, it was from a place of love and not
Yes.
from indoctrination and not from, oh, I'm forcing you to do this because you're my child and you're going to ruin my reputation.
Okay.
I'm forcing you to protect you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, God knows that those mistakes that you're going to make, he's going to rewrite it and make sure that you use it for his glory.
That's right.
Because if we all grew up perfect, how are we even supposed to teach the world to come to Christ? It doesn't, not justifying the fact that, we should all go live our life and then come to Christ. But I'm trying to say that when parents try to force some narrow road for children, it's so much more likely, this is based on studies, psychological facts, that they're most likely going to rebel. Even if you think that, okay, they're following you, I kid you not, they're not. They're not. Outside of your eyes, they're not.
How do you think that could be remedied in a way? I mean, how can that be fixed? Because obviously that is a complete breakdown of communications, isn't it? So how can that be fixed?
A better relationship.
Yeah. How can we build a better relationship from that perspective?
Understanding and patience. I feel like coming down to the level of your kids to be like, okay, I remember once when I was your age.
Okay. Would that work?
It
Bearing in mind, that's a complete generational gap.
it is a complete generational gap, but we're thinking because of the gap, we could still build a bridge to close the gap.
That's what I'm saying. That we go, look at this for it. Now, I was raised in the middle 60s into early 70s. Now, in my days, when a community is celebrating a newborn baby, everyone in the community attends, and the mindset is, when a child is born, that child does not belong just to the parents, it belongs to the community. So, which means if the parents were not around and the child misbehaves, anyone in the community would discipline that child. You know what I'm saying?
It takes a village.
Sorry?
It takes a village. That's the
Exactly,
phrase, it takes
exactly.
a
So it takes a village to raise a child. Okay, not just the parents. You understand now? So it's a different experience for me then. And I remember then when we go to school and if we misbehave in school, our teacher, get us disciplined and then give us a note to say, well, give this to your mom or to your dad. We're like, oh, goodness me, because you're going to get double discipline. You know what I'm saying? So now, and it was just more or less like a one-way traffic. That is a command, you got to follow it. You understand what I'm saying? So I was raised in that in that understanding. Now, I'm going back to what you said earlier on, Lenora, is that sometimes we, the older generation, try to bring that practice to want to relate with the younger adults now, which doesn't work, isn't it? That's right. It doesn't work. So what you're saying is that we need to obviously delete that process and come down to to the young adult level to understand and be able to respond. Right? Am I communicating?
You're making sense.
Okay,
Can I ask
so-
you a question?
Sorry?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go on.
Let's say you were addicted to certain types of drugs
Okay.
or smoking, for
Yes.
example, and somebody was telling you, stop smoking, stop smoking, stop smoking, but they've never held a type of cigarette, they've never held weed in their life.
Yeah.
But they're telling you, stop smoking, it's not good for you. But then another person that has smoked, that has done even worse than what you're doing,
Yeah.
it has affected them, they've learnt from it, they've matured, and
Yeah.
they're telling you from a good place in their heart, I've been there, I've done that, it's
Yeah.
not worth it. Who would you listen to?
Okay, I'll answer your question. But then, those who have actually experienced it, was it all of them that came back sane to give that counsel?
I wouldn't say it's all of them, but
Yeah, because there are some, obviously, who got into drugs and they never came back. I mean, some died in that process. Yes, I'm saying. So, and of course, oftentimes we see, we hear, adverts on TV, we hear advice here and there. Perfect example. I mean, if you buy a packet of cigarette now, there's a graphic picture there that this is going to destroy your lungs. Yes, I'm saying that. Yeah, because now it's this is going to destroy you. So now, having said that, you still have the choice to want to take it or not to take it. But that does not negate the fact that you're not open to risk. Okay? Back to your question, yes, I want to listen to somebody who have been through it before, but that does not eliminate the fear of what that could do to me. I think that's where the parents are coming from. It's like, don't do it at all because the end might not be, might not be good in the sense that you could, come out of it and then become a voice to those who are struggling in that aspect. And God forbid, one could as well just go through it and die through that process.
it comes down to the why.
Okay.
Why should I stop? Why should I listen? Why? I think parents, let me even throw this question to both of you. How many times are you trying to understand why your parents are trying to tell you not to do something and you ask them why? And that's the fire on the mountain.
Yeah, a
because
couple times.
African people have pride, and I'm never,
They
we're
never want to answer the question of
never-
why.
But and it's just one of them ones there where, because they will never understand your point. Then what do you do from that position? At that position where the people that have best intentions for you, like deep, your biggest supporters don't understand your point. The people who are meant to support you, let's not even they are supporters from the moment you left the room. If they do not understand your point, then even as a young person, then you kind of just feel abandoned in a sense. Because who is there to support you if your number one supporters aren't there?
I mean, I get what you mean. Like, I agree what you guys are saying, but you have to understand that the parents you're talking about were raised and were born in a completely different era and environment than us. Like, even though, like you said, they haven't experienced certain things, and like Sir was saying, he's talking about fear. people fear what they don't understand. Even though you don't understand how cigarettes taste or what it really does to you because you've never smoked a cigarette, you know the gist. Do cigarettes, you die. That's why parents fear for you when they see their children doing certain things that they haven't experienced but they know may cause harm. But what I think parents need to do is they need to kind of abandon that fear and give some control over to their children so that when they have conversations, it's not a one-sided, your parent yamming your ear off. It's you can talk back to your parent, not in a way of disrespect, but to allow them to understand where you're coming from.
Excellent. Lenora?
It's the lack of ability for parents to understand where their children comes from.
Lack of ability. Could you expatiate that?
Sometimes parents don't want to hear where their child is coming from. They
Okay.
just want you to hear them.
Okay. Explain that. Now, do we share in that?
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Do you share with that, Peter?
I think it's both sided there.
Okay.
So obviously your parents do have to go out of your way to understand them, but please never fault that whenever you commend action
Yes.
and your parents are getting onto you, think about it from their point of view. They are trying to
No, it's true.
they are trying to bring out the best of you. They're trying to see what's best for you. Like even if you go back to the cigarette thing, like some people. Okay, let's role play an environment. Yeah, let's say you're my parent and I come to you.
Safe.
You found that I'm smoking cigarettes and I've said to you, and you said to me, "Oh, stop," and I've said to you, "No, I don't want to." It's my body, it's my choice.
But you need to stop.
I don't want to. It's my body, it's my choice.
But if you don't stop, you're going to cause bad damage to your lungs and you may die. You may cause a bunch of conditions for yourself.
It's my body, it's my choice.
But I don't want you to make these choices because they're harmful to you. And your choices don't just affect you, they affect the people around you.
But
Because when you're 50 and you're dying from lung cancer, you know where the one's going to be seeing you in the hospital, right?
But then it's not my body and it's not my choice then.
What do you mean?
Because if you are trying to impose your will on my actions, then how do I have free will to do what I want?
You have free will, but I'm trying to guide you to use your will in a smart sense. Because if you know something's going to keep damaging you and you're doing it, sure, you have the free will to do it, but it's not smart and it's not productive at all to keep doing it. It's self-destructive. It's idiotic.
But it still doesn't change the fact that, like, I'm going to repeat again, it's my body, it's my choice. If I choose to do something, I will choose to face the consequences for my actions. Whether I should face the consequences, like, sure, I have advice around me, or I could see what it's like from someone else's point of view, is already committed the actions I've committed. By the end of the day, if I decide to do something, it's not on my parents' head that I decided to do that. It's not on the person who's next to me. It's my choice. It's my decision. It's my choice.
No, it's your choice, but again, it will be the parent's choice to, continue telling their child or trying to turn their child from that path into a better one.
So then at what point does the parent stop? At what point does the parent allow the child to do what they want? Is it when they leave the house? Is it when they reach a certain age?
I think but what if it's a mix of both? Because let's say your child hasn't moved out, but like they're above 18, let's say like 22, but they're smoking in your house. You know smoking's bad and you don't want them to smoke, but they're an adult, but they still live in your house. Just because you live under someone's roof doesn't necessarily mean you should drop on your knees and do everything they say. But because they are your parent and, if you're not providing any kind of help for the house like bills, they have leeway over you.
Okay, this is a question for everyone then.
Okay.
So then, at what point does a parent view their child as an adult? Because there has to be some sort of point. Because eventually, there's only so much you can keep on saying to your child. Your child can either decide to accept the information or leave the information. So at what point does a teenager become an adult?
I personally think 20. Like 18 legally is an adult, but I think you're still too young to be considered an adult. Like me right now, being 18, like I'm seen at home with more responsibility and more mature, but I'm still kind of treated like an adolescent in, certain aspects, innit? Like I don't always cook for myself. Sometimes people at home cook for me. I'm not always cooking. Stuff like that. So I feel like when you're 20, when you have a job, when you've gone to uni or you're just in work in general, that's when, you're an adult.
Okay.
Lenora, you want to throw some light into that, or do you share in that in those views?
I think to your parents, you're never gonna really look like an adult, and I completely understand it.
Yeah, right.
Because if I had a child, and that child is later on 30, 40, you're still my child, you're still my baby.
That's
Do you
right,
get what I
yeah.
mean? And I completely understand the heart of parents towards that perspective. But it's about the root cause and understanding certain things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not even about stop smoking cigarettes. Why are you smoking cigarettes? What is the root cause? It's not even about, I feel like the stop, like it was such a back and forth that you didn't even ask the true question of what is the reason? Why did you start smoking cigarettes? What was there a desire? Was there someone you were seeing that you were influenced by? Or was there a certain stress that you were going through? Was there mental health? Are you being bullied? Like, what is going on that you started going into that decision? I think it's always asking the root cause of the question, because sometimes parents can't see what you don't really share with them. You know, it's kind of like, again, with the church. I think because we're also digressing a little bit, but even when it comes back to the church, sometimes what is the root cause of people not even wanting to come? It's because they're not asking the why question. It's not asking the why question. They're not feeling impact. They're not even addressing things that are going within them. Sometimes it's not even about, oh, come to church, come to church, come to church. Sometimes children can actually pick up their cross and be like, yeah, I want to come to church because I know what God can do for me. And it's not even a transactional relationship, but I know how I feel when I'm in God's presence. At the end of the day, it's about knowing who God is. At the end of the day, it's about addressing the root causes of the certain decisions that we make. That is when I think there'll be peace and harmony, even in our homes with African parents that has a huge gap in the generation. It's about humbling ourselves to really understand that, okay, this kid might be going through more than what I can see. It's not about protecting them from this, from that, from this, from that. It's about understanding that life still happens regardless. It's not even about going to parties or maybe girls or boys that you think that they're roaming about with. Sometimes they could be going through stuff mentally.
Do you think, I mean, if you look at the community we are in today compared to what it was 20 years back, for instance, do you think it's more safer now or is worse?
Worse.
Who shares in that? Kamal says worse. I share in that.
I think
No, let's just get this, then we can then progress from there. I mean, who shares in that?
Better.
Do you think it's much okay? Now you're about 18. You know, now would you say that? Would you say it's more safer now than when you were 13, for instance?
no, it was probably safer when I was 13. When you think about it, like how,
But now that's not much of a difference, isn't it? You know, I mean, I can easily say, well, from what it was then and what it is now, and that might be something that influences the parents also, because I mean, back in the days, I used to see kids playing on the street. I see a lot of kids playing on. I mean, they go to the nearby park, for instance, and they're playing ball. I mean, see kids about 5 years, 7 years, they're playing ball, and there are no adults there. You know what I mean? But these days, you don't really see much of that anymore.
Because it's become less safe.
Exactly, and this is I think that is from the parental point of view. I'm just trying to balance, with you, Lenora. Yes, you have something to say, I suppose.
I think we can see that it's becoming less safe,
Okay,
but I think it's always been the same.
all right.
It's just the exposure
Okay,
has been more through social media,
Yeah.
through devices.
okay, all right. Now, okay, how do we bridge that gap, though?
The gap of social media.
No, not the social media. Now, how do we bridge that gap of because you said something earlier on that the parents would never understand, and you tailor that to. I think the first question should be why. For example, why are you smoking? Why don't you want to go to church? To understand that why. And I know we've talked a bit on the why already. Anyway, when we started earlier on as regards to why teenagers don't want to come to church, or young adults don't want to come to church. I think we need to come to. I want to know how can that be fixed, because obviously it's a major concern, and I believe that most of our viewers out there, obviously, young adult out there, share that view. Now, how can that be corrected? Because a lot of adults, parents, for instance, they feel frustrated that the kids, their kids don't want to come to church. You understand now, and the few ones that are coming, like Peter said earlier on, is more or less like they have to come, because the parents say you got to follow me to church. So how can that be corrected? I know Kamal, mentioned some things earlier on about making sure that the place has something to ignite your interest to want to come back. Which is something I think is a very valid point. So I mean, if Lenora, if you were asked to come and lead the youths, I mean, start a youth church and be the youth pastor, would you want to? Would you accept that?
No.
Okay. All right. So now tell me, what is, I know you said earlier on that you were asked to join the choir, be in the choir and things like that. And that wasn't what you wanted to do, right? Is there something that you wanted to do that you're not allowed to do? I mean, I want to tie that to what Kamal said earlier on, as into your interest to want to be in church.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Is there something that you want to obviously do in church that will engage your interest to keep coming, to church?
Yeah. I think right now in my church, I do media.
Okay, you handle the media.
Yes, I do media. I do videography. I handle
Okay.
social media.
Okay.
But I really want to know. It's not just about participation. It's not just about being in choir.
Yeah.
Like right now, I'm like, oh, choir looks fun as well. Like I could try that, but it's not even about that. Sometimes it's the reason I want to come to church consistently. The reason I'm just like, yeah, it's because I feel like I'm making a valuable impact. I'm
Okay.
being seen.
Yeah, right.
Even sometimes when I come in, people can tell that, okay, something's not right.
Yeah.
They can tell that my week's not been the best. They're people that I can speak to. I think that's more important, because if I felt like I wasn't being seen, I wasn't being heard, if I felt like just another member,
Yeah.
I would not be coming to
Okay.
church.
All right, that makes sense. Okay. Excellent. Beautiful. Peter wants to share something.
Apparently you have a question online, so we have a question.
Okay, is there?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a question here.
Okay.
I think this one goes to Lenora. They're saying that in regards to smoking and how they treat themselves, like Peter said, that they have is their body. So, but this question now said, it said, not every youth has the opportunity to experience life all round, has a life opportunity to testify it, even in good health. They now went for that. Say in smoking, he said, how can you encourage the younger ones when you are doing what the parents are telling you not to do, and you have younger ones that are watching you? How can you encourage them? How do you encourage them with that?
Like to encourage, like by telling. So the question is telling younger ones to not do it, but you're doing it.
Yes. Or they see you doing that, what the parents are telling you not to do.
Yeah, listen to what I say, not but what I do. I forgot what the quote was, but it's just like I think in some cases being a hypocrite is a good thing. I
How
mean,
so?
like, because if I'm going out of my way to try and better someone else, even if I'm not doing it, doesn't change the fact that the advice that I'm giving is meaningful. If I say to someone stop smoking and I'm smoking, doesn't mean that me saying that they should stop smoking is wrong. The only thing that's wrong, that would be a bit annoying about the statement, is that I'm being a hypocrite. But like sometimes being a hypocrite, I think, is a good thing.
What you're saying isn't wrong, but the fact that it's coming from you, who's not following your own advice, makes the information less meaningful. Like again,
But
like how Lenora drew a distinction between someone who's never smoked in their life versus someone who's smoked and done worse. If someone who's smoked is telling you like, oh, don't do this, like, yeah, they've experienced it, they know, but it's like if they're still smoking, you're not going to really want to take their advice because they're a hypocrite. Whereas someone who's not a hypocrite, you'd want to take their advice more because.
Yeah, obviously in a real life scenario, I think it makes sense that why someone would get upset if a hypocrite were to tell them to do something, but it still doesn't remove the value from the statement. It's bad for you, stop doing it. Like that is still a power. That like just that statement by itself is enough to for someone to be able to consider it because they know it's bad for them. So even if like you are doing the action that you're telling someone else not to do, because this why we shouldn't even limit it down to smoking. Even when you go look at other churches, right? The pastor will be doing things. Pastor will be collecting money
from the members. Yeah.
and at the same time, it'll be making sure to tell them, oh, you make sure you invite people to church every Sunday. Make sure you don't lie. Telling them to follow the Bible rules. Like even though they are in the wrong. They are being a hypocrite about it because all sins are equal. So you can't tell someone not to do something and you're doing something. Or you can't say one sin is greater than the other. Even though they are being hypocrite, it doesn't change the fact that the information that they're providing to the members is meaningful. You should follow the rules of the Bible if you're a Christian. If you believe in the book, you should follow it, even if the pastor is a hypocrite.
No, it's meaningful, but if the people know the pastor is full of it or that he's a hypocrite, to them it becomes less meaningful or has no meaning.
But the point is, it doesn't invalidate the information that he's saying to you.
It depends.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Excellent.
One more to
Lenora,
go.
yeah, you wanna share light in that?
What I'd add is just because I'm telling you not to do it and you can see that I'm doing it doesn't mean that I'm not trying to stop.
Okay. All right. Because that really.
Yeah, I agree with her.
Doesn't mean that I'm not trying to stop. Doesn't mean that other people aren't trying with their lives. Just because you can't actively see it does not mean that it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when parents are telling the kids, oh, do this, do that, do this, do that, and they're completely not listening to what I'm saying. That child might actually be actively thinking about all the information that you're telling them, thinking about, okay, how do I even go about this?
Yeah.
But we're just hearing, do this, do that, you're not listening, do this, do that, you're not listening. Sometimes it's about giving people grace. And another thing about advising somebody, even though they can see you actively doing it, you're actually in a better position to tell that person to stop. It's about being honest.
Yeah.
It's really about being honest. I think honesty and transparency is a thing that a lot of us don't have because we have pride, we want to ego, we want to handle our reputation. There's a lot of things that even our parents will be like, yeah, I was getting A stars in school. No, you was not. No, you wasn't. Maybe you wasn't. But you're lying. Maybe, do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's about being honest. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, you know what, I went this route and I'm going to be honest. Yes, I did this, I did that. These were the consequences, but I'm telling you now, I regret it. Don't do it. Yeah. And I'm actively trying to work on myself. I think honesty and transparency is very important, especially in the Christian household.
That's right. Honesty and transparency, that's brilliant. All right. Okay. You still have one more questions, right?
Yes. I think this one, I'll just summarize it actually. The first one, it said, just to
just read the
Peter.
question, please. Yeah.
No, the other question, it said, must you experience before you change or live right?
That goes to Lenora. Yeah, all right.
Why do I feel like these are coming targeted for me? We're humans. We're bound to live life. We're bound to experience things, whether you like it or not. Even people that don't experience all of the fun, youthful wildlife, they're still experiencing a type of life. A type of life that eventually, when your parents are not there, type of life when your aunties and uncles are not there, or that village that trained you are not there, sometimes you won't even be able to handle yourself in certain situations because you were so protected from it. Now you're naive. Now you don't even know how to handle yourself. There's something also called street smart as well as educational smart. I think sometimes it's like, for example, there's this conversation that some of my friends like to have, like when we have money, how are we going to treat our kids? Are we going to put our kids in the most prestige school? But I'm thinking, I don't want to put my kids in the most prestige school because I want them to still have a bit of the rugged life. I want them to experience life because it changes your mentality. It makes you stronger. Certain things that I'm able to speak about now, certain advices, certain things that I'm able to help people with. If I didn't have experience on it, I would just look at them. I can have compassion, but I wouldn't understand where they're coming from. So I think it's needed, and it depends on the type of child. I think we just need to give people grace.
All right, you said something while you were responding. Street smarts. What's that? Street smart. Yeah. So you know, throw light into that for us. I mean,
okay. There's there's a certain way you have to behave when you're outside, especially for our age group of people and the current generation that we're in. There's a certain way that you have to behave that if you were to explain it to, let's even use your parents will listen to you and say, "What are you talking about? That's absolute nonsense."
Yeah.
But if you don't behave in that certain way, you're gonna end up in positions that might put yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the way that people operate currently at our age group. I think that's the best way to summarize it.
All right.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. We'll be coming to a close shortly, but I mean, this is lovely. I've taken quite a lot of points, which of course I like to work with. Now, but what I want to ask us, I mean, it's good to see that most of us are church inclined, which is great. I mean, so maybe as we progress, we might have one or two persons who may not be church inclined, but they can look at that aspect as well. But then, in a nutshell, what can the church do, and what can the parents do, or what can the adults do to be able to engage proper interest, to engage the interest of the youth,
I
of the
think-
young adults, to be able to come to church willingly. And I mean, I like what you said earlier on in Lenora, that you are committed and you have a responsibility. So if you're not there, people can tell that, oh, she's not there, and that makes you feel important, which is great. You understand now, but I think if we look at that in the flip of the coin, that was something that I think was it Kamara or Peter that mentioned that earlier on, that if such environment is also created by the church and the youth and the young adults chooses not to be there, so how does that work out, right? So which means it is a two-way thing. So if the parents create it or the church creates such an environment and the young adult is not interested, how would it work? So you get it. So how do we, be able to see how to obviously have these implementations in place and to engage the interest of the youth to come to church? I mean, there are a lot of things I would like us to actually cover, but time wouldn't permit us. But we've done great today, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate you guys for it. So I want your individual comment in that regard, if you don't mind, please.
I think that for both the church and the parents, I think they just need to learn how to apply less pressure.
Apply what? Less pressure.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Less pressure.
if there's less pressure, then when the youth finally makes the decision to come to church, it will feel like a choice. It won't feel like, oh, I'm coming to church for this person. I'm coming to church because I don't want this person to be upset at me. I'm coming to church because I know they need me. No, I'm coming to church because I want to, and I want to have the relationship with God. Because the moment it becomes a choice, then people will do it all the time.
Okay, sorry, Peter. What if there's a task and the church depend on you in that regard? Going by what Lenora said earlier on, how would you respond to that? I mean, if the church depends on you for a particular task, for instance, and then because the thing is if when there's need, when you are if you are needed, there will be pressure, won't there? Did you agree with me? Yeah. If you are needed, there will be pressure. Because of that need, there will be that little bit of pressure. That, oh, we need you, we need you, we need you. So,
but it all just
balance
depends.
that for us.
It depends on the person and how much they value church. Then it still goes back to the point. Like if there's a need in the church and the person is relying on, and the church is relying on this specific person to complete these tasks.
Yeah.
If that person's will and need isn't into church, then even if when they come to complete the task, they'll do a horrible job and they'll leave. Okay. And the church will even be worse off than they were before.
All right.
So it all depends on if the person has that motivation to continue to help the church.
So that so you want to say something?
I feel like maybe the word church is so
Okay.
big and demanding.
Let me ask. Okay, when you hear the word faith, what comes to mind?
When
I mean, positively or negatively?
When I hear faith, I mean, I think positively, but also when I'm thinking of church, I think more as like a community to feel safe. I feel like, for example, in terms of business, right?
Yes.
You want to launch a new product, or you want people to come to be attracted to your product. You have to look for a gap in the market. What is there not?
Yeah.
And we need to understand, if you're trying to invite youths what is attractive to youth right now? It's social media. How much are we implementing social media in what we're doing? How, like, do you make TikToks, reels in church? You know, that actually, like, oh, this church looks fun. You know, it's sometimes it's a thing where like sometimes people just want to come and feel safe. They want to come and feel loved. The thing about pressure that you're talking about is they're thinking, oh, if you don't come, you're subject to this.
Okay.
Like that
Is
type,
that what you-
that
is that what you
that
meant?
type of pressure that is like so
I wasn't
heavy.
talking- I wasn't
So
talking
what kind of pressure did you?
I mean,
referring
like,
to?
like, okay, let's even look at it. Maybe the church is tiny and you're a member of the choir, right? If you know that if you don't come in to church, let's say the church is really extremely tiny, there's only 3 members of the choir, you're one of the 3. You know, if you don't come in, the church is going to be, praise and worship is going to be affected because of your lack of being there. That is pressure. That because of that, there's now been a pressure applied on you that you need to come in so that the service can go on as expected. That's what I mean by pressure.
Yeah, but I think wouldn't you look at that as a demand on your need on your professionalism, you know, on your valuableness?
Yeah, but it still doesn't change the fact that
I mean, if like for instance, if a child who doesn't want to go to church, for instance, you know, that child is not needed. I mean, if that child doesn't come to church, it doesn't affect anything. And he says, "I'm not going today." No, you are going today. You know, I think that's more of a pressure, isn't it? Right? But
that no,
But
that is that is a form of pressure.
compared to somebody whom the church
Needs.
the church depend on
Yeah.
in terms of maybe instrumentalists or whatever media, for instance. I don't know.
No, those are 2 different forms.
Yeah.
They're 2 different types of
Yeah.
pressure, obviously.
Yeah. Would it be a different approach for you, for instance, or for somebody who may share that view in our viewers, if he was going to do, if it's not just church but a place of work?
Faith is always a hard thing because when it comes to faith, you genuinely you have to accept that there's not going to be much proof in what you believe in, but you know it. Like you just have to say in your heart that you believe it. So when it comes to faith, I think like if you view church as a form of work, I think you're viewing the church wrong in general
Exactly.
because you shouldn't view church as a form of work.
Yeah.
You should see it as this is me developing my relationship with God.
With God, and this would be my little contribution in the church.
Yeah.
for
Developing with God.
Kamal, we're running up, so yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah,
mention
please.
something that Nora said, like about how the youths are attracted to social media and how churches may be able to implement that to attract more young people.
Yeah,
I think they can do that, but if they do that, I think it's going to get to the point where young people are going to lose sight of what church is really about. Where they're not going to come to church to worship or praise God, but they're going to come because they're making fun little TikToks in between, every sermon or at the end of every service or whatever.
yeah.
So I think it's a double-edged sword where you attract people, but the people you're attracting their hearts aren't actually in the church and they're not in God.
Obviously, you're going to have to, number one, the ideas that you have to create in terms of social media, that's something that has to be prayed about. That's something that you have to really, that's something that the media team in churches have to really pray about, really have to really seek ideas and really know what type of content they're putting out. Because at the end of the day, it's not just the idea to blend in with the world. We are called to be set apart. So it's not just going to be a thing where, okay, it looks like fun TikToks and everybody's coming to have fun. It's about a place where we feel like you need to be there because God needs you. Not only God needs you, God loves you and God wants you. I think we kind of is sometimes, again, all about ourselves. The whole thing about church, for me, I feel like church is like a battery.
Like a what?
Like a battery where I go get charged.
Okay, like a battery. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
like a battery of where I go get charged. Sometimes when my week was down or everything, or sometimes when I'm low in my faith, sometimes when I even need some stimulation from the word and I haven't felt like praying, I haven't felt like reading my word. Like church is where that I can come and feel alive
Very
again.
good, okay.
And I feel like that feeling is what a lot of people in our generation are missing. They don't feel alive. depression is a consistent thing. Anxiety, all of these are things that you can feel alive when you come to church. And I think that is the main message that we need to bring out to the youth, that the thing that you feel like you're missing within yourself is what you can get when you come to church.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I mean, we're closing now. Is there something that's individually you want to say to the viewers? Obviously of your group. The young adults that you want to say to them in terms of being able to see how to encourage them, to come to church, and also to adult viewers what they can do to be able to bridge that gap between the younger generation and the older generation. And there are quite a lot of things that have been said here today, which is so brilliant. And I want to believe that our viewers have actually gained from this broadcast. So so please just throw some just maybe about a minute, just 1 minute.
I feel like for any parents or adults who are trying to get their children or other children into the church, but their kids aren't motivated, I think you just need to talk to them. You need to start a conversation. Like Lenora said, you need to be asking the why. Why don't you want to come to church? Why aren't you motivated? And if your child opens up to you in a proper way, you guys can start that dialogue and you can find a way to make them motivated, or maybe they realize that their motivation was misplaced and they start coming to church and they like it. But always, always, always try and speak to your child before assuming and putting things on them, because that's the pressure Peter was talking about. And if your child feels pressure to do something in a stage of their life where they seek independence, they're not going to want to do it at all.
Thank you very much, Kamal. Peter.
If you are a child, and actually, if you are a teenager and your opinion is not the same as your parents, it does not now mean that you are in the wrong. I'm not saying you should go out and disobey your parents. I'm not saying that you should go out and rebel. I'm just saying that there's never going to be a situation where you guys will be able to look eye to eye, because you are not the same people and everyone has their own opinion and belief. And this applies for the child as much as it does for the parent. So even though the opinion between you and your parent is not the same, does not now mean that you are in the wrong.
Thank you, Peter. Lenora.
This is going out to teenagers, young people. Be interested in God. Like, He has a lot in store for each and every single one of you. I feel like we forget the fact that God is not just the God of Christian people. God is not just the God of your parents or the pastors. God is the God of each and every single one of you. And because He knew you before you were even born, so that means that there's a specific plan put in place for you. And that's to show how special you are. So whichever way that your life may be going and you think you're not worthy, I just want to encourage anybody that, that God doesn't see that. God doesn't see that you're not worthy, you're not valued, because you are everything to God. So I feel like sometimes it's not even about coming to church. Be curious about God. Be curious about who God sees you as. And I think that's where things will start growing in terms of your relationship with God.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you, Kamal. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Lenora. God bless you. Thank you very much for being here. To our young teenagers out there, our young adults, this is TLC, TLS. I'm looking forward to meeting any of you. Drop us a line, from the media. We'll be happy to have a word with you. Today, we actually looked at quite a number of things about church, but of course, there are a lot of things that we can also look at, in our community. You may not be going to church, you may have your reason why you don't even go to church at all. You may not even believe, but yet, this is a platform for you to come, speak your mind, express your views, and of course, we'll have a dialogue. It's not a place where we are trying to fix you, far from it. It's a place where we just want to have a chat with you, and we strongly believe that, you've been blessed, by this meeting today, and it's going to be taking place once every month. You may see our guests, back here again, looking at other topics or other subjects. So until then, my name is Apostle Fred, and I'm saying a big hello to you from here, TLS. God bless you.